You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet. Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
All right, Miami! Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. Hey, when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. 'Cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you tonight? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on the Saturday evening, April the 27th. I am your host, Mike Oliva, flying solo tonight. Supposed to be with Tom Ernest. He got tied up with an obligation. So you got me tonight as we break down and I give a recap of all of the Miami Dolphins day 3 picks in the NFL draft. And, you know, it was a more eventful day than I think we thought heading in, as they traded into round 4, partnered with a pick next year to get a running back in round 4, round 5, round 6. And I'd say, you know, round 1, some fans were concerned about the Chop Robinson pick. I love the pick. I think it's a great pick. Some fans were concerned. Friday night, a lot of fans were big mad, as the kids say these days, big mad with the pick of Patrick Paul. But I think on Saturday, a lot of Dolphins fans, you know, it's day 3. It's guys in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. And, you know, fans of the Dolphins were very pleased with the players we added on day 3 here. What does it mean in the big picture? I don't know. Day 3, not all these guys are going to make the roster. Some of them are going to go to the practice squad, and 1 or 2 might just not pan out. That's usually kind of how it goes. But we're going to break it all down on today's show. We're going to talk about some of the undrafted free agents. We have a small list of about 8 or 9 guys that they've signed at the time of this recording at 9:45-ish on Saturday evening. And we'll also talk about what's next post-June 1st. What are some of the positions and stuff like that they have to look at. So before we start with any of that, as always, a big shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a big shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook group. I'm the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Audible, make sure you're subscribed to that outlet, that channel. So when we drop a new episode of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, it goes straight to your smart device. It notifies you and tells you, tune in. We got a brand new episode. And I know the draft's over. We're still going to have shows. This is the part of the offseason where it gets a little slow. We got OTAs, mini camps, not a whole lot going on. But we're still going to have shows multiple times a week. There's always news. There's always rumors. And we're going to have you covered like no other outlet this offseason as we get through this slow patch we're about to hit until we get to training camp, really. There's that. And plus, one thing here at the top, we had a live stream Thursday night all night, Friday night pretty much all night, and Saturday, myself and Jason Sarney were off and on throughout the day. Thank you for all of you loyal DolphinsTalk.com listeners and followers who tuned in any part of this on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. The numbers were off the chain. So many of you listened and joined in on the live chat and the live streams. We really do appreciate it. As I always say, thank you so much for taking any time out of your day to listen to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. We know, and I know specifically, there's so many podcast options out there, whether it's true crime, NBA, Major League Baseball, other Dolphins podcasts, NFL podcasts, music, movies. There's so many options these days in the podcast world. We really do appreciate each and every one of you who take a few minutes out of your day each day to listen to us here. Tune in here at the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. We have laughs. We try to have some fun. We don't always agree, and that's okay, because if we always agree, it'd be boring. But we try to keep it lighthearted, fun, civil, and just we built a nice community here, and I'm very proud of how everything went this weekend. So thank you, each and every one of you who tuned in. Now, here's the deal. I'm doing a solo show. I got to watch a few things here on the screen. I got my notes so I can reference the people who joined us live in the chat. I'll try to get to you at the end of the show. I might not be able to share the comments as the show's going on because I'm looking at about 4 or 5 different things, and it's like being an air traffic controller. It becomes a little tricky. So I see you people there live in the chat. I'll try to get to you at the end of the show. So the Dolphins came into this draft came into day 3 with no pick in round 4. They had a pick in round 5, 2 picks in round 6, and then a pick in round 7. And they made a bold move, and I'm very happy they made a bold move. I think it was wise to make a bold move. We fully expect, although it's not guaranteed, we fully expect the Dolphins to get at least 2 compensatory picks next year in round 3. But they can't trade those because it's not official till like next March. That's when we find out, next March or April. But what they did do is trade their own 3rd round pick next year. The pick they own, that's going to be theirs. They traded that one to the Philadelphia Eagles to get to pick 120 in round 4 to select, wait for it if you haven't heard, running back Jaylen Wright out of Tennessee. I know in the moment, a lot of fans probably were like, oh my God, we're going to take a running back. Really? Don't we have enough running backs? We just took Achane last year. We just gave Mostert a new contract extension. We just gave Jeff Wilson a 1-year deal. We re-signed Salvon Ahmed as well. Chris Brooks is there. We're really going to take another running back. Yes, we are. And this is a good pick. This is a really good pick. Number one, this guy is everything Mike McDaniel wants in a player. Speed, speed, speed. Home run hitter. Most people, a lot of draft experts out there. And everyone's got an opinion. Doesn't make one right, doesn't make one wrong. Just there's a lot of opinions out there. Most people either had this kid, Jaylen Wright, as the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd running back in this draft class. I believe he was a 2nd running back off the board, but don't hold me to that. I might be wrong. This kid's a home run hitter. And this past season at Tennessee, 7.4 yards per carry. Last year's in 2022, 6 yards per carry. That's the SEC. That's big boy football. That's as good as it gets right there. 7.4 yards a carry, then 6 yards a carry. He tore up the SEC this year running the football, just like the year before at Texas A&M. Devon Achane tore up the SEC running the football. So you can make a case, the past 2 years, the 2 strongest running backs who tore up the best conference are now with the Dolphins. In 2022, he did have 4 fumbles. But last year in 2023, kind of worked on that, only had 1. So there was an issue in 2022. He put in the time, put in the work, corrected it, and only 1 fumble in 2023. So that's good to see. And I think with this move, look, we have to, the big picture here. It's just not 2024. Looking beyond, as we said on the podcast last night, look at the Dolphins. A Patrick Paul pick is not a pick for 2024. That's a pick for 2025 when, you hopefully move on from Armstead. He's a guy who you used a round 2 pick on, but you might not see play this year, and you kind of hope he doesn't have to play this year. Jaylen Wright this year is going to be on the depth chart behind Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. 3rd running back. He'll play, but it's more of a big picture move because, let's be honest, Raheem Mostert, the contract extension they gave him was just 1 extra year. And he's on the wrong side of 30. I know he had a fantastic year last year. We love Raheem Mostert. We all love Raheem Mostert. But running backs on the wrong side of 30 eventually do break down. And then someone like Mostert, who's had a ton of injuries in his career, including since being in Miami 2022. What's the most important game in 2022? The playoff game versus the Bills. Mostert didn't play. He was hurt. 2023, Dolphins start off 9-3. They're in the midst of a late season collapse. Week 17, week 18, trying to win the AFC East. Raheem Mostert did not play. He's on the sideline. That's as much as we love Mostert and everything he does. When the games are big, when the games matter most in crunch time, he's not even on the field. And I think that's why you got to start the process of, what's the pipeline? Achane, not a guy who's going to be a number 1 back you give the ball to 15, 16, 18, 20 times in the game. So you want to get someone to partner him with. Not so much this year, again, looking forward, and that's Jaylen Wright. He's going to help a little this year, but again, I think this is more of a big picture play. And unfortunately, when you add guys, it means, some other guys are going to have to go. How many running backs are you truly going to carry? And then in Miami, you have to factor in they also carry a fullback, which a lot of teams don't do. So you look at this depth chart. Alec Ingold, the fullback, ain't going nowhere. Raheem Mostert's not going nowhere. Achane's not going anywhere. You just traded a third-round pick for Jaylen Wright. He ain't going nowhere. That means between Salvon Ahmed, Jeff Wilson, and Chris Brooks, one or two of those guys are going to go. They're not going to be here. And they just re-signed Wilson and Salvon Ahmed. Not to big money by any means, but the Jaylen Wright addition means Wilson and Ahmed and Brooks, probably at least two of them are going to be gone, is what it is. That's life in the NFL. But I like the pick. Again, this offense had a lot of speed and adds another speedy guy, super fast guy, who is going to just add another weapon for this offense this year. But again, big picture, 2025 and beyond, as this year is that, reset year, transition year, pause year, however you want to word it. They're stocking up for the future here. And Achane and Wright, you're going to be your running back room of the future here, once we get past 2024, moving forward. So that was the big, bold move Chris Grier made on the early part of Saturday. Then in round 5, pick 158, I think this is the pick that got the Dolphins fans, not all Dolphins fans, because you can't get all Dolphins fans to agree on anything, but got the majority of Dolphins fans really pumped and excited. Round 5, pick 158, the Dolphins took edge rusher Mohamed Kamara out of Colorado State. And I think for where they got him, it's a steal. It's a total steal. Does he have ideal size? No, he doesn't. He's a little undersized. The arms are a little short, but this guy produced. He put up a ton of production at Colorado State. And on a side note, Colorado State, same college that Shaq Barrett, new Miami Dolphins edge rusher, went to. Granted, many years apart in age, but we got two Colorado State edge rushers now in Shaq Barrett and Mohamed Kamara. Kamara, this is what you love about him at Colorado State. 49 starts, 30 and a half sacks, and 45 and a half tackles for loss. Hello, that's a ton of production. That is a ton. I don't care, Colorado State, Oregon State. I don't care if it's Mississippi State. That's a ton of production in college football. 49 starts, 30 and a half sacks, 45.5 tackles for loss. He led the nation last year in pass rush grade on third and fourth downs with a 90.8 grade on third and fourth downs. And in the red zone, it was 90.9. Lance Zierlein, NFL.com, someone we quote a lot here on our podcast, who's one of the good guys who covers the draft. One of the guys, when he speaks, you shut up and listen because he actually knows what he's talking about. He had him as a round 3 guy. Chris Grier got him round 5, pick 158. Awesome. Can't ask for anything more than that. And Kamara said when he spoke to the media after he was picked, he said a couple interesting things. Number one, and he said this tongue-in-cheek, he wasn't serious, that he was going to make all 31 other teams who didn't pick him pay. He wasn't like overly serious or mad, but he did say that. And then he said he's good friends with Chop Robinson, the Miami Dolphins first-round draft pick, because this in the lead-up to the draft, they both trained together, and they became close friends in Arizona getting ready for the draft. So Chop Robinson and in round 1, Mohamed Kamara in round 5 here. And now let's look at this Dolphins pass rush, the edge rusher room. Heading into this draft, it was a very much an area of concern as they only had Shaq Barrett. They didn't have, and everyone else was hurt. Now you look at Jalen Phillips, again, timeline. I know he's aiming for week 1. Let's just be more realistic, I think. You're probably looking late September, first part of October. Jalen Phillips. Chop Robinson, round 1 pick, great. Shaq Barrett, healthy, ready to go. Great. Bradley Chubb, I don't know, but, I think a realistic time frame is maybe like first, second week of November, hopefully. You got Mohamed Kamara now. So they got some bodies here at the edge rush. Again, the first part of the year, until they at least get Jalen Phillips back, you're going to go out there with Shaq Barrett and 2 rookies, one of which was picked in round 5. Now, I like the Mohamed Kamara pick, don't get me wrong, but he's a round 5 pick for a reason. You don't want to pencil him in, asking to put too much on his plate, but I still think they might sign another edge rusher out there, maybe post June 1st when that money comes off the books, or in the next few weeks, a veteran who's been unsigned. There's not much out there right now of guys who, they're not going to bring back Emmanuel Ogbah. I'd be surprised if they brought back like a Charles Harris. He's unsigned. Carl Lawson. I know they met with Carl Lawson a few weeks ago. Excuse me. There's really not much left in the tank there. I guess they could. But someone of that ilk, I wouldn't be shocked if they signed here in the next few weeks or after June 1st, because because we don't know about Phillips and Chubb. And right now you got Shaq, Chop, Kamara. One more guy I think would make you feel have a little bit more confidence. And then we all just hope and pray Jalen Phillips can not only come back from the injury and get on the field as soon as possible, but also get back to form. There's a difference between just being healthy enough to play and being to the point where he was a dominant monster of a defensive end, outside linebacker, edge rusher when he went down last year. So that's where we are at the edge rusher. I mean, if you're a Dolphins fan, I said it on shows all last week, edge rusher, huge need for the Dolphins coming in this draft. Very pleased with Chop Robinson and Muhammad Kamara coming out of the weekend, and great pick there by Chris Grier in round 5. Then in round 6, I think another sneaky good pick, which, all the guys on ESPN, like Louis Riddick, Mel Kiper, they were throwing praise upon praise. Field Yates on the 6th round pick, number 184 overall, Malik Washington out of Virginia. This dude's a football player. Now, he ain't the biggest guy in the world. He's a little short at 5 foot 8 inches, but he had a 42.5-inch vertical leap at the combine. In 10 of his 11 last college games, he had over 100 yards as a wide receiver. So he produced, and that's at Virginia, and they had bad quarterback play. Like, it was bad. In the last 3 seasons, he only had 4 drops. So this is a guy who has a lot of production in college and is a total slot receiver. You're not going to play him on the outside on the boundary. He's not here to replace Hill, not here to replace Waddle. He's a pure slot receiver. He started his career at Northwestern for 4 years and transferred his final year to play at Virginia. Neither one's really an offensive, or I should say a football powerhouse by any means. Soft hands and tougher than a government mule. This guy has no fear. He will go over the middle, make the tough catch, take a hit, and get there in traffic and make the play and hold on to the football. Just an absolute, as they say, dog. He is and the perfect complementary fit, I think, for what Miami kind of needs. They need a slot receiver. They need someone to go in there. Now, is he wide receiver 3? The answer to that is no. They still need a true, legitimate wide receiver 3, whether that's Tyler Boyd, Odell Beckham, Hunter Renfrow, I guess, someone like that. But this guy as a wide receiver 4, I'd rather have him out there than Braxton Berrios. I'd rather have him out there than River Craycraft. Eric Ezukanma, kind of all depends on his health. I don't know how healthy he is, but here's the deal. When it comes to Braxton Berrios, when it comes to River Craycraft, and again, I don't say this with malice, they're nice people. I am sure. Good people, good human beings, wish them all the best in their life. They had their chance last year. When Tyreek Hill got hurt and was playing at less than 100%, pretty much from the Titan game on, when Waddle was wounded and not playing at less than 100%, all these guys, Robbie Chosen is not here anymore. Chase Claypool is not here anymore. Craycraft, Berrios, they all had a chance to step up and do something. They failed. So that's why we take this wide receiver now, and in a few picks, I'm going to tell you about another wide receiver we took. They had their chance. Now it's time to move on. And I think Malik Washington is someone who's going to make the team. I'd be very surprised. Look, once again, we are talking about round 6 players. I know right now if you go on social media and you follow the Dolphins, fans are pumped up, and they should. It's fun. The draft is fun. You just added a bunch of new players. But we know round 6 players don't always make the team. Round 6 players sometimes don't even make practice squads. It's a round 6 player. But I think this guy can play. I think but he's got a specific role. He's not a number 1. He's not a number 2. He's not a number 3 wide receiver. He's a slot wide receiver in certain formations who, if you use him right, he'll produce and you'll get the most out of him. We just can't put too much on his plate because, again, he's a 5'8" wide receiver. But I think, if you're asking me going into 2024, would I rather have Malik Washington, Braxton Berrios, or River Craycraft? Give me Malik Washington because he's the unknown, and I think he's got a higher ceiling. And I've seen the other 2 guys just nice players, nice guys. They didn't rise to the occasion. So we'll see what they do because right now, pretty much we looked at the room. We got Hill, Waddle, we know. Eric Ezukanma, we don't know how he's rehabbing from that neck injury. Neck injuries are scary, man. Sometimes you're just never the same. So hopefully he's doing well. Then you got Malik Washington. You got Anthony Schwartz. I mean, River Craycraft. So they need a vet. If they go into the year with Hill, Waddle, whoever the vet is, let's just say Odell because that's where there's been the most smoke, Eric Ezekiel and Malik Washington is like your top 5 wide receivers. Cool. That's a good wide receiver room. Way better than last year's wide receiver room. Way better. So I think the Dolphins from a wide receiver, and they did add one I'm going to talk about again here in a few minutes, but that was like round 7. So I'm going to take it with a grain of salt there. Then with their second pick in round 6, one of the needs the Dolphins had coming into this draft was safety. And they addressed that here with their second pick in round 6 at pick 198. Patrick McMorris, the safety out of Cal. Against round 6, these, again, all rookies, unless you're like a top 5, top 15 pick, and even those guys sometimes need to develop some. Once you get to like round 5 and 6, you're getting guys who have like flaws in their game, and you hope you get a scratch off lottery ticket, like Zach Thomas, round 5. You can't bank on that. Like he came in day 1, year 1, started and never let go of the job, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Everyone knows Tom Brady, 199. But you can't bank on guys in rounds 5 and 6 like quick right now without using your phone or your computer. Who did Miami take last year in round 5 and 6? Who did they take in 2022 in rounds 5 and 6? Who did they take in 2021 in rounds 5, 6, and 7? You can't name them because, today in the moment, everyone's super excited. Yeah, we got this guy. Okay, you got to, pump the brakes a little. I'm not trying to throw a wet blanket on everything here, but they are guys in rounds 5, 6, and 7. They took Patrick McMorris, safety out of Cal. Now, here's this guy. He's got some traits you like. He's got to work on a few things. Nice size for safety, some physicality, and he moves with fluidity and coverage per Lance Zierlein from NFL.com, and he can cover guys in the slot. As a free safety, that's probably not the spot for him. He doesn't have the range in the open field, so you don't really, as a free safety, not a guy, maybe more of an in-the-box strong safety type. He closes quickly downhill in the box, and he takes good angles when trying to tackle people. The key word there is trying. Is one of the weak spots for this guy is when he goes to tackle people, a lot of his tackles get broken. Guys can run through his tackles easily. He needs to work on wrapping up. And again, if he's going to be sort of like a single high as a free safety, the range isn't there. So he's got traits to work with here in round 6. He's got a lot of traits you like, but they're going to have to coach him up, work with him. I see this guy's a total practice squad guy, probably year 1. And if they can stash him on the practice squad, that'd be great. And maybe a year from now, again, Jordan Poyer probably won't be here a year from now. Javon Holland, last year of his contract, we don't know if they have the money to re-sign him. So we'll see. But Patrick McMorris, safety out of Cal, 198, round 6, solid pick, fills a need. Again, for him to make the team, it's really not that hard because you look what they have at safety. As of today after the draft, Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer, Elijah Campbell, Patrick McMorris. That's it. 4 guys. And one of them just turned 33 yesterday, last year of his deal. The other one's in the last year of his deal, and the other one's Elijah Campbell. So I think when that Xavier Howard money post June 1st, safety is top of the list. And there's a couple good safeties out there, including a stud safety. I don't know if he might be too expensive for Miami, if they can afford him. But in Justin Simmons, if he's out there, they're going to need to sign a safety here because they only got 4 for training camp, and they're going to need another body there and possibly another guy who can play, because if they're going to go to 3 safety sets under Anthony Weaver at times and sort of sprinkle in some 3 safety sets, Elijah Campbell, Patrick McMorris are not guys you want to see in the field in 3 safety sets. So keep an eye on safety here in the next coming month or 2. Then with the final pick of the draft, round 7, they took another wide receiver with a last name Washington, Taj Washington. I believe that's how you say it, Taj. Out of USC, pick 241. And 5'10", another undersized type wide receiver. He's not as small as the other Washington, Malik, we took here in round 6, but he's 5'10". Doesn't create a lot of separation, but he does win contested balls, which is a good trait when you're only 5'10". Again, another fearless guy over the middle. He's willing to go over the middle, make the tough catch, take a hit, hold on to the ball. And when it comes to run blocking, he's more than willing to get his nose dirty as a run blocker. He's a returner in special teams, which is really where he has a chance to make this team this year. But the limitations with him, why he fell to round 7, short arms, small hands, and he's not super, super fast, average quickness per se. So again, probably a practice squad guy this year, I would think, unless he really just tore it up in training camp in the OTAs, which we're all hoping for. That'd be great. But I think realistically, you're looking for him, maybe a practice squad this year. So this day, they took a running back, 2 wide receivers, an edge rusher, and a safety. That's a good day. And I like the trade of moving their 3rd-round pick to get back into round 4 this year to get a running back who is going to help them not just this year, but probably help them a lot more next year. Kind of like Patrick Paul, more of a 2025 play than a 2024 play. So can't be upset with this draft, really. I know Thursday and Friday, like I said, a lot of fans are upset. I get it. I hear you. If you didn't want Chop Robinson and you wanted them to draft Graham Barton and plug him in at guard for the next 8 to 10 years, I get it. Chris Grier is never taking a guard in round 1 or a center. But so he took an edge rusher because A, we needed it badly, and B, it's more of a premium position than guard. You can find guards anywhere. And then around 2, the Patrick Paul one, that's what this draft will be remembered for, and how it'll be graded. Does Patrick Paul pan out or not? Because if they redshirt him for a year essentially, and he doesn't play this year, and then in 2025 and beyond, say he stinks, then it was a wasted pick in round 2, pick 55. That's a high pick. And they could have took someone who could have helped them in 2024, 2025, and beyond, whether it's a defensive tackle, a higher rated wide receiver, a top safety. They could have done something else, but they went with a project left tackle, which I'm okay with because I think as a project, again, when it comes to Patrick Paul, and this is going to be a hot topic all offseason, and the eyes of training camp is going to be on this kid. I hope the pressure doesn't crush him. As a pass blocker, I don't want to say he's elite, but he's very, very good. Okay. Knocking on the door of elite because of his size, his length, and some of the traits. He's got to work on the fundamentals of a couple things, fine-tune a couple things. But for the most part, for a left tackle coming into the NFL, he's as good as close to good as you're going to get as a pass blocker. As a run blocker, a lot of work needs to be done there. In all facets of just being stronger overall, hand placement, footwork, all that stuff. Again, I'm not a scout. I'm not, someone who's watched hundreds of hours on them, but I listen to people smarter than me who do that stuff. And, they all say the same thing, whether they had a mocked in round 1, mocked in round 2, or mocked in round 3 or 4. The consensus is you like the build, the height, the weight, the length, the speed. What you don't like is some of the fundamentals. And as a run blocker, it's lacking. So that's, to me, how this draft is looked upon in 2, 3 to 4 years is primarily Patrick Paul. I think that's going to be the big one. Chop Robinson, obviously, the round 1 pick 2, but Patrick Paul is going to be the one that's going to be debated for a long, long time amongst fans of the Miami Dolphins. Matthew, the comment here, seems like they drafted for next year instead of now. Yep, they 100% did. And I wrote an article about that up at DolphinsTalk.com. You can read it about the vision is clear. It's about 2025, not 2024. And I know a lot of fans get mad. And I will state this again, which I feel like I'm stating it for the 100th time. So if you've heard it for 99 times, I'm going to state it one more. I'm not saying the Dolphins are going to be bad this year. They're going to win their 9, 10, or 11 games like they did last year. They might get into the playoffs again as a wild card, as a 6 or 7 seed like they did last year. I'm saying if you line up the 2023 roster to the 2024 roster, even though it's not done, although, it's close to done here. Now we're after the draft. They might sign some guys post-June 1st. That might move the needle a little bit, but, for the most part, we know like 90% of this roster, 95% of this roster, you compare them side by side, the 2023 roster is better. I had someone on social media say, they've upgraded every position. No, they haven't. Come on. I mean, I know we're fans and we want to think that they have. They upgraded tight end. Robert Hunt's gone. They didn't replace him. And you can make a case, Connor Williams, not a knock on Aaron Brewer, you can make a case Connor Williams is a better center than Aaron Brewer. So don't tell me they upgraded the offensive line. They haven't. Wide receiver, they drafted a guy in round 6. They drafted a guy in round 7. Do not tell me they upgraded wide receiver with picks from round 6 and 7. They have not. If they sign Odell Beckham, they sign Tyler Boyd. Hell, if they even signed Hunter Renfrow or someone like that, or DJ Shark, they upgraded wide receiver. Today, when I'm saying this, on April 27th, they haven't upgraded wide receiver. People are saying that they upgraded the secondary. How? They got cheaper from Howard to Kendall Fuller. They got cheaper. But would I take Xavier Howard for 13 games over Kendall Fuller for 15 games? I'll take all things equal. Give me Howard for 13 games. Kendall Fuller's not bad. He's not bad. He's cheaper. Let's be real. Let's just call it what it is. Xavier Howard, he got hurt a little bit more. But again, he played 13 games last year. He played 15 the year before. Fans of the Dolphins now talk like he only played like 6. No, he was out there for 15 and 13. Yeah, it sucks he's not out there more, but he was cut primarily for money. Do not tell me they upgraded a corner, and do not tell me they upgraded a safety when you lost a young Brandon Jones and a younger Deshaun Elliott, and we had a 33-year-old Jordan Poyer on a 1-year deal. 33. So if you want to think that's an upgrade, that's great. We don't have to think the same. But I'd rather have the 2 younger safeties more in their prime than a 33-year-old Jordan Poyer. Now you look at linebacker. You say Jordan Brooks versus Jerome Baker. I think it's a wash. Some people want to say it's an upgrade. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you too much there. But if it is an upgrade, it's a slight upgrade. And we got here someone in our chat. Running backs upgraded with right. He's a third-string running back. Third-string running back who was picked today in round 4. I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I love the pick. Love the trade, love the pick. Don't tell me the running back room is upgraded with a third-string running back. It's like third-string running back. That's what we're talking about here. And what else? And then you look at the defensive line. This is where anyone who wants to tell me they've upgraded a defensive line has lost their mind. They lost Christian Wilkins, who was paid like one of the best defensive ends / defensive tackles in the NFL. They lost Raekwon, who I know didn't put up huge stats, but a solid starter the entire time he's been in the NFL. And they signed 6-7 guys on 1-year deals for less than $2 million. And none of them can sniff Christian Wilkins' jock. And most of them aren't even as good as Raekwon. So we upgraded a tight end. Not going to argue there. You want to say the upgraded Jordan Brooks over Jerome Baker? Minor upgrade at best. I'll go there. The rest of it, we can have a difference of opinions and be civil about it. Do not tell me this roster is better than the roster last year. It's just not. Now, maybe post-June 1st, if they go nuts, sign a Dalton Risner, if they sign an Odell Beckham, and if they sign Justin Simmons, we'll have a different conversation then. June 2nd, if they do all that June 1st or post-June 1st, June 8th, June 9th, whatever, we'll have a different conversation then. But as of today, April 27th, do not tell me this is a better roster in 2024 than it was in 2023. And don't tell me that you're going to bank on guys picked in round 5, 6, and 7 to come in and be like starters or guys who are going to be out on the field, 40, 50, 60% of the snaps. And we're going to be great. Again, I know it's day 3. Everyone's excited with the picks. I'm excited with the picks. But as I said, right now, don't Google who do we pick last year around 6 and 7. In 2022, who do we pick around 6 and 7? 2021, who do we pick? No, you don't remember the names. So, but on those days, this guy's great. Oh, we got a steal. I can't believe this guy fell for us. So again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not pooping on stuff. I'm just saying, take it with a grain of salt because it's draft day. And the moment everyone gets happy, then when you take a step back, look at the big picture, you look at things and go, okay, we still a little weak here, still a little weak there. And we got $18 million coming off the books. And it's not going to be expensive to sign this draft class. That's not going to take a lot because we didn't have a pick in round 3. And, we're going to have some money to spend to hopefully fill some holes. Greg here, it's a reset, not a rebuild. 100% correct. This isn't a full rebuild. We're not going to be bad this year. We're not tanking this year. It's a reset, though, where we are sort of shuffling the deck, trying to get some young players out there, see what we have with them. Trying to see if some of these young players can play at a high level to where maybe next offseason we can move on from some higher price guys, open up some cap space. And also when you open up cap space, it helps you really make sure you can re-sign Waddle, Phillips, pay Tua this year, hopefully keep Holland. That's a help. And we also hopefully going to get, we as we traded a 3rd round pick this year, we still have hopefully coming 2 comp picks in round 3, which will give you in the first 3 rounds, 4 picks, which is good. That's more than that. That's +1. That's what you want. Okay, this draft. I know draft grades, silly, stupid. Not going to spend a lot of time on it. PFF gave the Miami Dolphins a B- grade. That's kind of where I am. I graded them a B. You want to go B-. You want to go B+. Not, I mean, what are we talking about? A half a thing either way. B- grade from the people at PFF. So I like that. This is an interesting one, though. Warren Sharp, who is a big analytics guy, very, very smart, covers the NFL, covers the draft. What he did is he put together, not necessarily a grade. This isn't a grade. He does the value of each pick in each round, and then he puts that information all together, and he tells you which team had the best value draft and which team had the worst value draft. So it's not grade A, B, C, D. He's actually doing it numerically, like, okay, I had this guy on our board at pick, worthy of pick 21. You got him at pick 64. That's a ton of value. Just an example, I'm making it up. That's a ton of value. You get marked high for that. But at pick 38, you took a guy who we had ranked at 140. That's low value. You overdrafted him. You underdrafted him. So he did a list for each round. And when he put it all together, the team with the best value draft, in his opinion, was the Detroit Lions. But not so fast, my friend. The second best team, in his opinion, with the best value draft was our Miami Dolphins. Second best value draft. The Bills, on the other hand, had 18th, the Jets 20th, and the Patriots 29th, to put that in perspective with the AFC East teams. So per Warren Sharp and a big analytics guy, by his value chart and value system, he's got the Miami Dolphins with the second best value draft this year, only behind the Lions. Now, when it comes to the overdraft and underdraft is good, overdraft is bad. So round 2, on the underdraft, the best value, he had Patrick Paul as the 9th best underdrafted player. That's a good thing because he did the top 10 for each round. So round 2, top 10 guys who were great value, top 10 guys who were bad value. And ranked number 9 on his top 10 list for good value was Patrick Paul in round 2. Round 1, though, he feels the Dolphins overdrafted Chop Robinson, and that was number 5 on his worst value in round 1. So Chop Robinson, round 1, worst value. Patrick Paul, round 2, number 9, best value. Go to round 4, Jaylen Wright, best value, ranked number 5 out of all the picks in round 4. And then when you get to round 5, Muhammad Kamara, number 5, best value. So he just did the first 5 rounds. I didn't see round 6 and 7 on his chart, but again, out of those 5, 3 of them he has ranked very high as good value. Patrick Paul, round 2, 9th best. Jaylen Wright, 5th best. Muhammad Kamara, 5th best in their rounds. Only Chop Robinson he has as a bad value, 5th worst in round 1. Overall, per Warren Sharp, second best value draft class by his system there. So positive news there. So there's 2 things right there. PFF draft grade is a B-. That's positive. I mean, anything in the B's or higher is great. And then Warren Sharp, who most people like, gave it number 2 overall best value draft class. So that's kind of cool. There'll be more grades in the coming days. I'm sure on Sunday I'll write an article with my grades. I know grades right after the draft. It's silly, it's stupid. But you know what? Every outlet does them. ESPN does them. NFL Network does them. They all do them. And it's just fun. It's just fun. Don't take it with a grain of salt. We got a question here from Lonnie. Your opinion on the offensive line that we have in the building. They pretty much put the band back together. Teron Armstead and Kendall Lamb, left tackle. Left guard, you got Isaiah Wynn, and you got Eichenberg backing him up. They swapped out Connor Williams for Aaron Brewer. I think it's a slight downgrade, but very, very slight. Right tackle, Austin Jackson and Keon Smith, same guys as last year. And the big question is right guard. You got right now Robert Jones and Jack Driscoll, and that's where I think they're going to sign someone post-June 1st. That's why I think they're going to sign someone post-June 1st. But pretty much same offensive line as last year. And I know as a pass blocking unit, they were ranked at the bottom, but a lot of guys were hurt. A lot of guys in and out of the lineup. If you get some luck here with injuries this year, if Armstead can give you a couple more games than he usually gives you, if Hunt's gone, he was hurt last year. If Aaron Brewer can play a full 17 games, not be without Connor Williams in and out of the lineup like he was last year. If Wynn can give you close to a full season, which I know is asking a lot for him, then I think the offensive line will be okay. this is the 1-year anniversary of Chris Grier saying you're more worried about that position than we are. And you look at this draft, they took one offensive lineman who probably ain't going to play this year in Patrick Paul. They're not worried about the offensive line, but I do think they signed a veteran guard post June 1st. And I think that's it. And they'll plug him in at right guard probably, and they're off to the races and that's your offensive line for this year. They're not going to go out there and sign a bunch of guys. I think they'll sign one veteran guard, and all depending on who it is, they'll compete for the job, or if it's someone who's very good, clearly better than Robert Jones and stuff, they'll hand them the job. So there's that. Post June 1st, like we said, I'm not spending more time on it, but the 3 key areas that they need help at are a third wide receiver for sure, another safety for sure, and the defensive tackles out there, they're probably going to add one there, and maybe a low-cost edge rusher. But I think a third wide receiver, they didn't just give Odell 1 contract. They gave him 2. They clearly want him. As a fan, you might not want him, and I understand that. Not here for that type of debate, but they clearly do. And if it's not him, like I said, Tyler Boyd, Hunter Renfrow, DJ Shark, these are names. Hopefully they can get one of them. Safety, they need another safety with experience. 100% they're going to get one there. And a defensive tackle, they signed a lot of guys, but a lot of those guys aren't very good. We'll see what happens there. Problem there is there's not a lot of guys left to sign who are any good. So it might be this year Zach Sealer, Benito Jones, and Tier Tart, and just pray. Pray it's not as bad as I think it could be. As I wrap up here, undrafted free agents. So at the time I am recording this, let me give you the names. At the time I am recording this, they signed about 8 or 9. They might have signed a couple since I started recording. I don't know. And there's one funny story with one of them. So in no special order, Leonard Payne Jr., a defensive tackle out of Colorado, signed with the Dolphins. Offensive guard center, Matthew Jones out of Ohio State, signed with the Dolphins. Cornerback, Isaiah Johnson out of Syracuse, my neck of the woods, signed with the Dolphins. I don't think he's going to have a very good he's not a bad player by any means. Total practice squad guy with a lot of potential there, but to crack that lineup, going to be tough at corner. And here's another reason why it's going to be tough at corner. Undrafted cornerback, Storm Duck from Louisville, and they gave him a whole lot of money. When they give one of these undrafted guys a whole lot of money, that means if they would have had an extra pick, they probably would have drafted you. And if they're going to give you a whole lot of money, they think a lot of you to where you have a fighting chance to make a team. Storm Duck, cornerback out of Louisville, scheme fit. Each year, 1 or 2 undrafted guys do make the roster. They just ball out in the OTAs. They ball out in training camp. They ball out in preseason games. This year, I'm thinking Storm Duck's the guy just to keep an eye on. Not saying for sure. Keep an eye on. They signed UTEP quarterback Gavin Hardison. That's essentially a mini camp arm. So when they hold some OTAs here over the next month and in June, they need a quarterback who can make all the throws that then they can cut just so they can run a practice. Sad, but that's kind of what it is. They signed Florida Atlantic wide receiver Jaquan Burton. And here's another guy to keep an eye on. UCLA edge rusher Grayson Murphy. This guy's pretty good. To quote Larry David, pretty good. Kind of surprised he wasn't drafted. And, of course, edge rushers in need, all depending on the health of Phillips and Chubb. And when they're this guy's got a chance to make the roster, sneak on there. Grayson Murphy, UCLA. Him and Storm Duck are the 2 I'm keeping an eye on. TCU safety, Mark Perry. We actually have his numbers. He had a $15,000 signing bonus and $150,000 guaranteed. And he had a lot of teams wanting him, so Dolphins had to pay for him too. They signed offensive lineman Andrew Meyer out of UTEP. He got $75,000 guaranteed with a $15,000 signing bonus. And then they do this all the time and it never works out, but I give them credit for trying still. They signed a basketball player who's never played football before. Never played high school football, never played college football. They signed Bayron Matos, a college basketball player, 6'9". They're going to try him out at offensive line. This will not work. They do this all. Most of the time, they take someone and they try him at tight end, and it never works. And now they're going to try someone probably at offensive tackle. It won't work, but they signed him. There's a little bit of buzz about him this week leading up to the draft. If someone would actually take him, no one took. I mean, the guy's never played football before, crying out loud. I don't know how you can take him, but they signed him as an undrafted free agent. Storm Duck, here it is, got $20K signing bonus, $150,000 guaranteed. When you get a $20K signing bonus, I'm not saying you're going to make the team for sure. But when you get that kind of money as an undrafted free agent, they think very, very, very highly of you. Let me just leave it at that. And I think between him and Murphy, those are the best two odds here to make the team. I don't, since I've been recording, they might have signed some other guys. I don't see it. I have a full list up at our website, DolphinsTalk.com. Check that out. Check that out there up at DolphinsTalk.com for the full list. And I'll be updating that all throughout the night, all throughout Sunday. Anytime there's news on an undrafted free agent, I'll put it on the list. So keep going back to our website, checking, and you'll see who we signed. Now, the funny story as I close out the show, the Dolphins, it was announced, signed undrafted free agent cornerback Rashid Williams. I think he went to Texas Tech, and everyone was like super happy because he was a guy that everyone thought would get drafted, and he can sign with Miami as an undrafted free agent. It was like one of the first names announced. It was like, yeah, that's a hell of a signing there. He's got a chance. I mean, he's really good. And then like a couple hours later, it's like, yeah, he's going to the Raiders, not going to Miami. I was like, that's odd, because usually when these guys say I'm going here, they don't change their mind. They don't, it's quick. They say, yes, I agree. Send me the thing. I'll sign it, send it back. And he's going to the Raiders. Then Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, he found out what happened. Per Barry Jackson, and I quote, a veteran Miami Dolphins front office official left the team for the Raiders, and the Rashad Williams camp, when they were on the phone with this person, thought they were talking to the Dolphins. So they told everyone, we're going to the Dolphins. Then they found out, no, I don't work for the Dolphins no more. I work for the Raiders. And so he goes, okay, I guess I'm going to the Raiders. So Rashid Williams was talking to a scout who used to work for Miami, now works for the Dolphins. He didn't know the guy switched teams. So he thought at first he was signing with the Dolphins, when in reality, no, he was signing with the Raiders. Hence the confusion. He's not coming to Miami. He's going to the Raiders. That's a funny story. That's a little funny. He's a good player too. So it's unfortunate that there's no chance he was going to come to Miami. But overall, yeah, we'll see what happens with the undrafted free agents again every year. I mean, they get one or two guys who make the roster from that group. So we'll see if that happens again this year. And overall with the draft class, I give it a B. Hoping for the best here. Chop Robinson's he's going to have a lot put on his plate early on to make plays as they wait for Chubb Phillips to get back. Patrick Paul, he's got 365 days to figure this out. Him and Butch Berry, figure it out. Coach him up, get him better. 2025, he's got to be your left tackle. Otherwise, that's a very bad pick. But he's got a year to figure it out. And with these other guys, I think Jaylen Wright, third running back, use them in special situations this year. Great. Muhammad Kamara, again, as long as there's no Chubb and Jalen Phillips on the field, he's got a chance to get playing time. Maybe he can sort of fill that Andrew Van Ginkel role a little bit, sort of be that rotational pass rusher at times. There, Malik Washington, I think got a chance to be wide receiver 4 or 5 to start the year. And then the guys after that, when it comes to McMorris, and the other Washington practice squad, you hope. But yeah, if in a perfect world, that's sort of how these draft picks play out. That's what we're hoping for. Not being negative, not being positive, just giving you honest thoughts and opinions in the moment. I know social media is a wild place, and you're going to see some people who poop on everything. Everything stinks. And then you're going to see some people who are going to tell you nothing's wrong. We've upgraded every position. The team's way better than last year, and we're going to go 17-0 and win the Super Bowl. It's like, that's not realistic either. Like I said, for any new listeners who found the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, we give you fair and honest opinions. We're not out there trying to troll people. We're not out there trying to get you worked up. We're not out there trying to pump you up and blow smoke up your fanny either. We give you fair, honest opinions, fair, honest grades. Sometimes it's positive. It's great. It's positive. Sometimes it's negative, or it's not. We got to be a little critical. It's not fun to be that at times, but you got to call it what we see, and that's what we do. So thank you so much for listening to the show tonight. Here's what I need everyone to do. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, I don't care if it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, subscribe. Because, again, we're going to have shows probably this week, probably most of this week coming up, and we're going to have shows the rest of the offseason too, until we ramp up to training camp when we get into the everyday shows. You don't want to miss an episode. We're going to have some interviews along the way, have some special guests along the way, have surprises. We will keep you entertained with Miami Dolphins content. Trust me, this entire offseason. You don't want to miss anything. Late summer, we got a huge announcement, a big surprise coming that I think everyone who's probably listening to this show is going to love. So be like late July, our website, our podcast has a huge announcement coming. Huge. I'll just leave it at that. So you're going to want to be subscribed just to hear that huge announcement alone that's coming later this summer. Go to the website, DolphinsTalk.com. Each and every day, we got original commentary, articles, news bits, videos. All the podcasts are housed there. You can just find everything there. You want to make sure each and every day, at least once a day, if not multiple times, you go to DolphinsTalk.com. Whenever news breaks, whenever there's Miami Dolphins content, we have it there all over the place. Thank you guys. Thanks, Cody. Appreciate the kind words. Darth here said I gave a fair grade. Thank you. I think it's a fair grade. It's not over the top, not overly negative. I think it's a very fair grade. And again, thank you anyone who joined our live streams on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Thank you so much. It's very much appreciated. Trust me, we do appreciate each and every one of you guys who subscribe, who listen, who send us feedback. It's awesome. It's awesome. Thank you, Jim, in our live chat. Thank you. We do appreciate it. You guys are the best. You're the absolute best. I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, like I said, for true crime, other Miami Dolphins podcasts, NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, and the fact all you guys give us a few minutes of your day most days and listen and tune in. It doesn't go unnoticed. We got more coming for it. Like I said, late July, we got a huge announcement that I think you guys are all going to love. It's going to be so good. I can tell you when it's coming, but I can't tell you what it is because we're still working on all the details. I think you're going to love it. I think it's going to just, help our podcast network and our stuff explode, take it next level. So be on the lookout for that, like I said, in the summer. But we're going to have shows this week, probably maybe even a show tomorrow with some draft grades. Monday, we're going to have shows with Josh Mosier and Stephen D this week, probably Marissa and Manny, myself and Big E, Ian Berger, Josh and Aaron, the same old Dolphins on Monday are going to be talking about stuff. And a bunch of different hosts, bunch of different opinions. And it's going to be great as we sort of Matthew, thank you. We really enjoy you too. Thanks for tuning in tonight. This is just the start. Like I said, 2024, even though we lost a lot, and we're going to be asking some rookies to step into some big shoes. This is still a very talented team. Do not be mistaken about that. This team, as I said on the live stream this afternoon, which I'm sure not everyone saw, this offense did not need a lot of work. It just needed to be tweaked. And, the Hunt, Connor Williams, who fills in there, who's your third wide receiver, really from a talent perspective is it. And they upgraded tight end too along the way, which is great. The problems on offense last year, and I'm just being, once again, blunt honest. I'm not trying to, be overly negative, overly positive. The big problems on offense last year was with the head coach, Mike McDaniel. If he just calls a better game, if he gets more experience, doesn't make the same mistakes over and over again, this offense was fine. When they're running for 7-8 yards a clip, you get to 3rd and 1, you start throwing backwards passes. Like, what are you doing? When, you have 120 yards rushing in the midway through the second quarter and you stop running the ball. What are you doing? Just keep running, keep going with what's working. If Mike McDaniel can clean that stuff up, if Mike McDaniel can figure out how to win a challenge and sort of clean up and get organized when it comes to the instant replay procedure and however they handle that and fix that. If he can just stick to the running game when it's working at times, especially now with Jaylen Wright, you're throwing him in the mix. They got 3 speed wide receiver or 3 speed running backs. If it's working, don't get away from it. If they can, if the offensive line can sort itself out, have less injuries, and be on the field more as a cohesive unit together. There's always going to be injuries. If they can sort of sort that out, the offense is going to be fine. Yes. And here's the deal. They lost Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt missed half of last year. Okay. Robert Hunt missed half of last year. He wasn't even there, and it was still the number 1 offense. He was hurt with the hamstring. So yeah, they'll go sign a 3rd wide receiver and they'll go sign a vet guard. But even if they don't, say they don't, offense is going to be fine as long as Mike McDaniel improves as a play caller. And Darth here from Doug, that's the same thing I quoted. I just spoke about that. That's the Warren Sharp thing. We were ranked only behind the Lions, number 2 overall. It's not a grade, it's draft value. So how they view the player we took versus the spot we took him in, we were number 2. And every other team in the AFC East was either 18 or lower. So yeah, that's the same one. That's the same one I charted. It's the same one I just mentioned about 10 minutes ago. No worries. So, yeah, if Mike McDaniel just improves with his role, the offense is going to be fine. The bigger issue the Dolphins are going to have this year is this. They went from Vic Fangio to Anthony Weaver. And I know fans not – once again, like all the players that left, they all stink. All the players we signed are great. Vic Fangio doesn't stink. Now, maybe the players didn't like him. Maybe he couldn't communicate well with the players in-house. That happens, I guess. But with all those injuries they had last year on defense, and they had a ton of them, that was still a top 10 defense in the NFL. He produced. And you're going to Anthony Weaver, who's only been a coordinator before once in Houston, and it was a miserable failure. And he had J.J. Watt, and it was a miserable failure. Then the Ravens coordinator gets hired as the head coach in Seattle. Do the Ravens promote Anthony Weaver? No. Does the new head coach in Seattle, who was the coordinator above Anthony Weaver, does he bring Anthony Weaver with him and make him the defensive coordinator? No. So we get Weaver. Just saying, the two people who knew him the best didn't promote him to defensive coordinator. That's, again, not hating, stating a fact. And so we got a new coordinator here who's only got 1 year experience calling a defense. We'll see how that goes. We all hope for the best, but again, hope, we don't know. We all hope for the best. And then, Ken Kendall Fuller and Cam Smith, play at an equal level as Xavier Howard. Can Jordan Brooks play at an equal level of Jerome Baker? There's going to be people out there who say, oh, yes. We don't know. How do we come close to replacing Christian Wilkins? You really can't. How do we mitigate that with 2, 3, 4 guys trying to rotate them in and out to fill that void? You can't. And then the secondary, Jordan Poyer's good, but he's 33 in the NFL. Can his body hold up for a full season? And if not, who's that next safety who can step in? So the questions to me are more on defense. I think the offense is going to be fine, especially if Mike McDaniel figures it out a little bit and gets a little better in his role. But I think the bigger questions are on defense and what we do there. So that's going to be interesting to see who they add. And sort of, we're not going to know until probably get to week 1 and start seeing the games, like the real games, not preseason games. So that's really the concerns heading into the season. But, okay, I'm going to end the show. It's been about an hour. Thank you all for listening. Really do appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter or X at DolphinsTalk, Instagram. I'm going to be putting up more Instagram stuff, too. Follow us there at DolphinsTalk. Again, busy weekend. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your Sunday. We'll talk to you again after a while. And, folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.